Hello there, pre-algebra class. I'm so very proud of you for the time and the effort that you're putting into this. So let's get you ready for your quiz. Okay, first of all, from section 8.7, you're going to need to be able to identify the X and Y intercepts from a graph, find the X and Y intercepts from equations, and graph using the X and Y intercepts. Now, we're going to have specific examples as we go through of these topics, so you don't have to necessarily write down all these topics, but understand that this is your master list that you're going for. You can find the videos, they're still uploaded, they don't disappear. You can always go back, and if you check the notes section on the website, there's also links to those graphs even after the fact that you can go back and need to look if you need to. From section 8.8, you're going to need to be able to find the solution of a system of equations from a graph that's already done, but also be able to make your own graph to find the solution of a system. And those answers will always be ordered pairs. And from section 8.9, you need to be able to figure out if an ordered pair is a solution of an inequality and also be able to graph an inequality. Okay, so let's just jump right in with this. If you're trying to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of a graph, keep in mind that this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. If you look on the x-axis, where it touches the x-axis, that's the x-intercept. So for this one, the x-intercept would be at -3. The y-intercept would be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The y-intercept would be at 5. So x-intercept, y-intercept. I'm doing this quickly because it's a review and we took a long time initially. Alright, finding the x and y intercept, even if you don't graph it, involves plugging in a 0 for the x in order to find the y-intercept and a 0 for the y in order to find the x-intercept. So it looks something like this. If you plug in a 0 for x and you solve it, you get a -6. So your y-intercept is a -6. The ordered pair 0, -6 would graph on -6. If you have the 0 in the y slot and you plug it in and you solve for x, that gives you the x-intercept. So we can find the x-intercept, you can find the y-intercept. You can either give them as individual numbers or you can give them as the ordered pairs that they come out to be. So be careful with that. Now, the x and the y-intercept are useful not just for that, but they're also useful for graphing. So we will also be responsible for being able to graph using the x and y-intercepts. So for example, in this particular problem, if you want to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, you can plug in the values. So here, if we plug in a 0, 1/2 times 0 minus 3 gives me a -3. So y, 0, -3 is an ordered pair. 0 on the x, -3 on the y, that's your y-intercept. Your x-intercept is found by plugging a 0 in for the y. So here's a 0, and when you solve for this, you add 3 to both sides, and then multiply both sides by 2, and we get x equals 6. There is our x-intercept. So you graph your y-intercept and your x-intercept. They would be graphed separately. And then after you graph your y-intercept and your x-intercept, you draw a line between them, and that would be your graph using the x and y intercepts. It's not a complete graph until you've actually made the line that connects them. All right? Now, the other thing that I said you need to be able to do is find the solution of a system of equations by a graph. So if you have lines that are already graphed, the solution is the place where they intersect. So the solution of A and C would be the ordered pair -1, 3. The solution of A and B would be the ordered pair 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Okay, so once again, the solution of A and C is the ordered pair -1, 3, and the solution of A and B, where they intersect, is 4, 2. So when it asks for a solution of a system, you're always giving an ordered pair. And that goes whether the graphs are made for you ahead of time, which there is some of that on your quiz, but also if you need to do the graph yourself. Now, doing the graph yourself takes more time and effort. So when you get ready to do that, you need to make sure that you can put in that time and effort. Even though your answer is just going to be an ordered pair, this is your method of finding the solution because you have no other methods at this point. So you would take the time to make a nice graph and count out the numbers. Now, you can make your graph by either graphing the X and Y intercepts, or you can start with 1 point and then usually the y-intercept where you've got x equals 0 is a good place to start, and then do one more over from it. And so if I start at 0, 1, for example, pull these out of your way. If I start at 0, 1, so when I plug in a 0, I get a 1. And then if I plug in a 1, I'm going to get a 2. So 1, 2. And then once you have the pattern established, you can just go continue that pattern to make your line. Do make sure that you're careful to complete a pattern to make a line in order to get these solutions. You may have to go a few. Okay? On this one I started at 0 and 4. And then at 1, when I plug in a 1, my solution would be a 2, so 1, 2. And the pattern continues. When it says solve by graphing, make sure that you can actually make the graph, the lines that go with them, and then you're trying to find where they intersect. And when you actually draw the lines in, it makes it more obvious that you did get the point where they intersect. Remember, you're just finding 2 points and continuing the pattern until you find that spot where they cross each other. So my solution to this is the ordered pair 1, 2, because the ordered pair 1, 2 works in both of those equations. All right, another thing that you need to be able to do is find out whether certain numbers will make this inequality true. So there will be some of that on your quiz. In order to figure it out, you need to plug in your values. Okay, so for example, if I want to find out if 1, 2 works in here, you plug in 1 here and you plug in 2 here. So 1 plus 2 times 2 gives me 5. 5 is less than 3 is false. Plug in -1, 1, -1, 1. -1 goes for x, 1 goes for y. So -1 plus 2 times 1 would give me 1, and it is less than 3. So that 1b is a solution. You can have multiple solutions. So on your quiz, you're going to be asked to find which ones are solutions, so you need to evaluate all of them to see if they're solutions. So then you would plug in this one, 4 plus 2 times -1. And when you solve that, you find out you get a 2, and 2 is less than 3, and that's also a solution. If there was an or equal to here, if there was an extra little line here, then you would be checking to see if it could also be equal to. So that would be another possible solution. So be careful on these. You have to plug in each one to find out, and each one of the questions will be judged on its own merit as far as which one are. Remember, there are an infinite number of solutions, so you need to be able to test to see which one is which. And then finally, graphing the inequality. So what you need to be able to do is pretend it's an equals. You need to be able to know if it's a dashed line or a solid line. This one happens to be dashed. And then you need to be able to, after you've figured out what if it were equal to, and then you figure out where your ordered pairs are, I would suggest on these that you graph by intercepts because it's a nice easy way. Make sure that you're thinking whether it's dashed or solid. You have that in, then you have to figure out which side to shade on. You do that by picking your test point. We can pick 0, 0. 0 is less than 4, so my inequality looks like that. So that's our quick going back over of the material that you need to know for your quiz. Make sure that you are going over and studying and just doing your best on it. I'm very proud of you. I'm expecting you guys to do great on this. So just make sure that you're going back over it, right? God bless you and have a great day.